The universe was vast, and in its depths, stars shined with secrets waiting to be uncovered. Across galaxies and centuries, one thing was certain. No one had ever considered Earth as a threat. To the advanced alien civilizations, Earth was a tiny, primitive world, just a speck in the cosmic ocean. But everything changed when an unusual signal began to pulse from Earth's distant solar system. The signal was unlike anything the aliens had ever encountered. It wasn't a distress call or a simple communication. It was something new, something powerful. The aliens, who had ruled the galaxy for millennia, were suddenly filled with unease. They could sense the power in the signal, but they couldn't understand it. A feeling of uncertainty spread among the alien leaders as they gathered in their war room, their faces shadowed by fear. "I don't understand. What are they trying to tell us?" General Theric, leader of the Zorth Empire, growled, his claws tapping nervously on the table. "We should prepare for the worst," replied Commander Nyla, her voice steady but tinged with concern. "This signal could mean Earth has developed a new weapon. We should not take this lightly." The discussion grew heated, with some arguing that the Earthlings were simply too weak to pose a serious threat. But others, more cautious, warned that even a small threat could be disastrous if left unchecked. The debate raged for hours, until it was clear that the only solution was to send a fleet to investigate the source of the signal. They needed to know what Earth had to offer, and if it was something they needed to fear. Back on Earth, the leaders of humanity were just as confused. The signal that had reached the stars had also been detected by their space agencies. It was unlike anything Earth's scientists had ever seen, and its source was unmistakably Earth itself. The discovery of the signal sent ripples of panic through the governments. No one knew what it meant, but the fear of attracting the attention of unknown powers in space was real. Captain Kale of the Earth Intergalactic Navy stood in front of his command crew, his expression firm but concerned. He had been chosen to lead Earth's first battleship beyond the solar system, a massive vessel that was more advanced than anything the world had ever built. His mission: investigate the origins of the mysterious signal. Humanity had no idea who or what they were about to face, but one thing was clear. The Earth battleship would need to be ready for anything. As the battleship powered up, Cal's heart raced. This was humanity's first step into a larger universe, and the unknown stretched before him, vast and filled with potential dangers. "Prepare for launch," Captain Kale ordered, his voice calm but determined. "We're going to meet the unknown, and we will be ready." With those words, the Earth's battleship began its journey into the cosmos, and the aliens who had felt a flicker of fear now braced for the storm that was heading their way. The stars above Earth shimmered with endless mysteries, but the planet had never been the center of galactic attention. Until now, the aliens had long ruled the stars with ease, their ships and technology far beyond anything humanity had ever dreamed of. But Earth's battleship was something completely different. It wasn't just a ship, it was a statement, a new force in the universe that no one expected. The battleship, nicknamed the Defender, was the largest spacecraft ever built by humans. It was equipped with technology that even the most advanced alien species had never seen. Its weapons were powerful, its defenses near impenetrable, and its crew, the finest Earth had to offer, were determined to prove their place among the stars. The battleship wasn't just for defense. It was a symbol of Earth's strength, a message that the humans were ready to face whatever the galaxy had to throw at them. Captain Kale stood on the bridge of the Defender, watching as the stars stretched out before them. He had seen the ship's power during training exercises, but now it was real. Now Earth's survival depended on this ship and its crew. "Captain, we've received a transmission from the Zorth Empire," his communications officer, Lieutenant Zora, said, her voice tight with tension. The Zorth Empire was one of the most powerful alien factions, known for their ruthless strategies and terrifying weapons. Kale nodded, his eyes fixed on the vastness of space. "Put it through," he said. The screen flickered, and a tall, muscular alien appeared. His skin was dark blue, His eyes glowed with a fierce yellow light. He was the Zorth general, Therak, the very leader who had been discussing Earth's signal only days before. "You have entered Zorth space, Earthlings," Therak's voice boomed, echoing through the bridge. "We do not take kindly to intruders. Leave now, or face the consequences." The alien's threat hung in the air, but Kel's expression remained calm. "We're not here to start a war, General," Kel replied. "We just want to understand the signal. What did you feel when you heard it?" Therak sneered, his gaze cold. "Your signal was a warning, Earth. A warning that you have something we can't understand. And that makes you dangerous." The transmission ended abruptly, and the crew exchanged nervous glances. Kel knew that the Zorth Empire would not back down easily. He could sense the growing fear among the aliens, and it only made him more determined. Earth was no longer a vulnerable, forgotten planet. It was a force to be reckoned with. "Prepare for possible engagement," Kel ordered. "Stay alert, everyone. We may be in for more than we bargained for." As the Defender powered through space toward the unknown, the aliens watched from the shadows, wondering if they had underestimated Earth's might. The battle for the galaxy was about to begin, and Earth was ready to prove its place among the stars. The tension in the galaxy was growing as the Earth's battleship, the Defender, continued its journey deeper into alien space. Captain Kale and his crew had already made one thing clear: they were not going to back down. The Zorth Empire's threat had only strengthened their resolve. But Kale knew the hardest part was yet to come. The true test was still ahead. First contact. The battleship's sensors picked up another ship on the edge of their radar. It wasn't a Zorth ship, but it was big, far bigger than any Earthling vessel. It was a sleek, dark craft, shaped like a predatory beast, with sharp angles and glowing symbols across its hull. The design alone was enough to make anyone's skin crawl. "Captain, we've got an unidentified ship heading toward us," Lieutenant Zora called out from her station. "It's coming in fast. They're not responding to our hails." Kale stood, his eyes fixed on the massive ship approaching. This was it, the moment they would face their first alien enemy face to face. "Red alert," Kale ordered. "Prepare for contact. Let's hope they're not as hostile as they look." The crew sprang into action, securing all systems, readying the ship's defenses. Kel couldn't ignore the nagging feeling in his gut. Despite all the technology aboard the Defender, facing an unknown alien ship felt like staring into the void of space itself, unknown and full of danger. As the enemy ship drew closer, the tension in the air became almost unbearable. Every crew member on the bridge stood silently, waiting for the first move. Then, without warning, the enemy ship fired. A bright flash of energy erupted from its hull, a bolt of pure force that shot toward the Defender. "Brace for impact," Kale shouted. The blast struck the ship's shield, vibrating the hull, but holding steady. The shields absorbed the energy, but the force was enough to shake the crew to their core. Everyone on the bridge felt it. "Shields holding, Captain," Lieutenant Zara reported, her voice steady but with a hint of surprise. "Return fire," Kale said, his calmness a shield of its own. "Let them know we're not to be messed with." In an instant, the Defender unleashed a barrage of energy blasts. The enemy ship staggered, its shields flickering under the attack. The humans had never used these weapons in actual combat, but they were designed for this moment. The moment the galaxy realized humanity was no longer a weak, insignificant species. The enemy ship's response was quick. It swerved, dodging the blasts with impressive agility. It fired back, hitting the shields again. But this time, the Defender had already anticipated the attack. Earth's ship responded with a precise strike, hitting the alien vessel in its midsection. Sparks and smoke erupted from its hull as the enemy ship wavered in space. "We've got them on the ropes," Kale muttered, watching the alien ship slow its movements. The fear he had seen in the eyes of the alien general, Therak, now seemed to make sense. This was more than just a show of strength. It was a fight for survival. The enemy ship, unable to withstand the power of Earth's weapons, began to retreat, turning and fleeing into the dark abyss of space. "We did it," Lieutenant Zora whispered, her voice filled with awe. Kale watched the ship disappear into the distance, his mind racing. This victory was only the beginning. The message was clear. Earth was no longer a weakling in the universe. It was a force, and the aliens now knew it. "Prepare for the next move," Kale said, his voice steady. "We have just begun." After the battle, the crew of the Defender sat in stunned silence. The alien ship that had attacked them had retreated, but the victory felt different than they had expected. It was not just a physical win, it was psychological. The aliens had seen Earth's strength, and now they were afraid. Back in the Alien War Council, the atmosphere was thick with tension. General Therak's frustration had reached its peak. The humans had proven to be far more resilient than he had imagined. His fleet was powerful, but Earth's battleship had shown them something they hadn't anticipated. The humans were not to be underestimated. "We must respond," General Therak growled, his sharp teeth visible as he glared at his advisors. "This cannot be allowed. The humans are a threat to the entire galaxy." "Agreed," said Commander Nyla, her voice cool but worried. "Their battleship is unlike anything we've ever encountered. The strength of their weapons and their tactics, we can't fight them directly without risking everything." Therak's fists clenched in anger. "Then we do what we must. We form an alliance. It's the only way to keep Earth in check." The idea of an alliance was something the Zorth Empire had never considered. They had ruled alone for centuries, dominating weaker species and forcing their will on the galaxy. But this time, they would have to make an exception. Earth had forced their hand. In a distant corner of the galaxy, a different alien faction, the Ferric, were also aware of Earth's presence. They had been watching from afar, unsure whether to join the Zorth Empire or remain neutral. The Ferric were known for their advanced intelligence and cunning strategies. They were not easily intimidated, but the power displayed by the Defender had changed their calculations. "We cannot stand by and let the Zorth Empire claim victory," said Kar, the leader of the Ferric, as he gathered his top generals. "We have to form our own alliance with Earth. Together, we can match the Zorth and deal with this new human threat." But Kar knew that convincing Earth would not be easy. The humans were proud, and they had already proven their strength. Offering an alliance would require delicate diplomacy. Back aboard the Defender, Captain Kale sat at his desk, staring at a holographic display. He knew that the battle with the Zorth Empire was just beginning. The aliens had underestimated Earth, but now he had to focus on the bigger picture. If the Zorth Empire was going to form an alliance, it was possible other alien factions would do the same. Humanity could quickly find itself caught in a galactic war. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the Ferric," Lieutenant Zora said, breaking the silence. Kale stood up, his mind racing. He had expected the Zorth to make contact, but the Ferric were a surprise. If they wanted an alliance with Earth, it would mean that Earth's influence was spreading faster than Kale had anticipated. He pressed a button on his console, and the screen flickered to life. "Captain Kale." Kar's voice echoed through the bridge, calm but direct. "We have been watching you. We believe an alliance between our species is the key to ensuring the Zorth Empire does not grow stronger." Kale's brow furrowed. The Ferric were clever, and their offer might be genuine. But he knew better than to trust anyone in these uncertain times. The galaxy was shifting, and Earth was right in the middle of it. "Let's hear what you have to offer," Kale replied, his voice steady. The tension in space was growing. After the successful battle against the alien ship, Captain Kale knew the hardest part was just beginning. The Ferric had made their offer for an alliance, but the Zorth Empire was not far behind. Both sides were watching the Defender, the ship that had shaken the galaxy's power structure. Kale couldn't help but feel that Earth was on the verge of something monumental, But the question remained, would humanity be ready? On the Defender, Kale walked the command deck, his eyes scanning the stars outside. His crew had already proven their skill, but now they would face the real test. The Zorth Empire had pledged retaliation, but the Ferric were offering their assistance. Earth was caught in the middle of a galactic power struggle, and Kale had to make decisions that would affect the future of humanity. "Captain," said Lieutenant Zora, breaking his concentration, "we've received a transmission from the Zorth Empire. They want a direct confrontation." Kale sighed. He had known it was only a matter of time before the Zorth Empire demanded answers. The aliens had underestimated Earth once, but now they were ready to make a stand. "Put it through," Kale said, his voice firm. The screen flickered to life, revealing General Therek's angry face. His eyes were narrow with rage, and his posture was tense. "You've made a mistake, human," Therek snarled. "We warned you. Now, you will pay the price." Kale stood tall, unaffected by the aliens' threats. "We didn't come here to fight, General. We came to understand. But if you want war, we'll be ready." Therek's lips curled into a sneer. "You may have won your small victory, human, but you'll learn that the Zorth Empire is not easily defeated. We will show you the true power of our fleets. Prepare to die." The transmission ended abruptly, and Kale turned to face his crew. He knew the Zorth Empire was formidable, but Earth had something they didn't expect: ingenuity, resilience, and the power of the Defender. "All hands, prepare for battle," Kale ordered. "This time, we show the galaxy what humanity is capable of." The crew moved swiftly, readying the battleship's advanced weapons. The Defender was equipped with energy cannons that could decimate enemy shields and missiles that could pierce the strongest armor. But what made the ship truly unique was its defensive systems, which had been designed specifically to counter advanced alien technology. The humans had studied alien tactics, learned from their past encounters, and built a ship that could adapt to anything. As the Zorth fleet emerged from the shadows of a nearby star, Kale felt a surge of determination. This wasn't just about winning a battle. It was about proving Earth's place in the galaxy. "Lock onto their flagship and fire when ready," Kale commanded. His voice was calm, but the weight of the moment hung in the air. The Defender powered up, its weapons humming with energy. A moment later, the first volley of fire was launched toward the Zorth flagship. The energy blast struck with precision, hitting the enemy ship's shields. But the Zorth were quick, and their fleet retaliated almost immediately. The battle was fierce, but Kale knew that Earth had the advantage. With every shot fired, Kale saw the fear in the eyes of the Zorth. They had never faced an enemy like Earth before, and they were beginning to realize that they were no longer the dominant power in the galaxy. The battle had barely begun when the first crack appeared in the Zorth Empire's resolve. Despite their overwhelming numbers and superior technology, the alien fleet was struggling against the might of the Defender. Captain Kale stood at the helm of his ship, his eyes never leaving the battlefield. Each energy blast from the Earth battleship hit with precision, and the Zorth fleet was beginning to crumble. But Kale knew this victory would not come easily. The Zorth Empire had a long history of ruthless retaliation. It wasn't just about defeating their ships. It was about breaking their spirit. If the Zorth weren't completely crushed, they would regroup and strike back with everything they had. "Captain, we've detected an incoming transmission from the Zorth," Lieutenant Zora said, her voice tense. "Put it through," Kale replied, his voice calm but alert. The screen flickered, and once again, General Therek appeared. This time, his face was a mix of anger and something else: fear. It was the first time Kale had seen the alien general look uncertain. "You think you've won, human?" Therek snarled. "This is far from over. The Zorth Empire will never bow to your primitive ships. But if you think you can defeat us with force alone, you are wrong." Kale didn't flinch. "We didn't come here to destroy you. But we will defend ourselves, and we will protect Earth." Therek's eyes flashed with menace. Your arrogance will be your downfall. You've made a mistake by attacking us, and you'll pay the price for it." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving Kale standing in silence. The aliens were clearly rattled, but they still held their pride. Kale knew that a final showdown was inevitable. The Zorth would never give up without a fight, no matter how much fear they felt. "Captain, I've detected something strange," Zora said, breaking the silence. "It looks like there are Zorth infiltrators aboard the Defender." Kale's heart skipped a beat. Sabotage was something he had been expecting. The Zorth would do anything to undermine Earth's victory, and now they were trying to strike from within. "Seal off the affected sections and send a team to investigate," Kale ordered, his voice sharp. "We can't afford any mistakes now." As the crew scrambled to respond, Kale felt a surge of determination. This was no longer just about surviving. It was about proving that humanity could stand strong, even against the greatest empires in the galaxy. In the depths of the Defender, a team of Earth's best soldiers moved quickly through the ship's corridors, scanning for any sign of the Zorth infiltrators. It wasn't easy. The aliens were skilled in stealth and subterfuge, and they had already started sabotaging key systems. But the humans were ready. They had trained for moments like this, preparing for the unexpected. As soon as they found the infiltrators, they made quick work of them, neutralizing the threat before it could cause any real damage. Back on the bridge, Kale watched as the rest of the Zorth fleet retreated into the void of space. They had broken, their pride shattered by the unexpected strength of Earth. But Kale knew that the Zorth wouldn't stay down forever. The galaxy was full of dangers, and Earth's battleship was just the beginning. "We may have won this round," Kale said quietly to his crew, "but the war is far from over." The battle between the Defender and the Zorth fleet had reached its peak. The Earth battleship, now fully engaged with the enemy, was proving itself a force to be reckoned with. Captain Kale stood at the command center, his eyes fixed on the massive viewscreen that displayed the chaotic space battle outside. Energy blasts and missiles streaked across the dark expanse, creating a spectacle of fire and light. Cal's crew was working together in perfect harmony, responding to every command with precision. The Zorth Empire, once thought to be invincible, was now struggling against the might of a human ship they had underestimated. "Shields at 80%, Captain," Lieutenant Zora reported. "The Zorth flagship is making another pass. They're trying to break through our defenses." Cal's brow furrowed as he watched the enemy's flagship approach. The Zorth had been relentless, refusing to back down even after suffering heavy losses. This was the final push, a desperate attempt to break the Defender and prove that the Zorth Empire was still the galaxy's most powerful force. "We can't let them get any closer," Kale said, his voice steady but filled with urgency. "Target their engines. I want them disabled, now." The crew responded quickly. The Defender's powerful weapons aimed at the Zorth flagship, and a barrage of energy blasts erupted from the battleship. The Zorth flagship shook under the impact, its shields faltering with each blast. "Direct hit to their engines," Captain, Lieutenant Zora announced. "Their ship is losing power. They're trying to retreat." The Zorth flagship, once a symbol of the Empire's dominance, was now crippled and drifting in space. The sight of the mighty ship, now struggling to stay in orbit, sent a clear message to the rest of the fleet. The humans were not a force to be underestimated. But the Zorth weren't done yet. Seeing their flagship in trouble, the remaining Zorth ships rallied together in a last-ditch effort to break the Defender. A final wave of enemy fire came pouring toward Earth's ship, but Kale had already anticipated their move. "Full power to the forward shields," he ordered. "We'll hold them off. All weapons, fire at will." As the enemy fire struck the Defender's shields, the ship trembled but held firm. The humans had designed their ship with the finest technology, and it was withstanding everything the Zorth threw at it. At the same time, the crew continued to retaliate, launching their own counterattack. With deadly precision, the Defender fired once more at the Zorth fleet, this time targeting their weaker flanks. One by one, the remaining Zorth ships were disabled or destroyed, their once proud fleet crumbling under the relentless human assault. "Enemy fleet is in retreat, Captain," Lieutenant Zara called out. "They've broken off. They're fleeing back to Zorth space." A moment of silence fell over the bridge. The crew, though exhausted, shared a sense of relief. The battle had been long and hard, but they had won. Earth had faced the Zorth Empire, and they had emerged victorious. Kale let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. His mind was still racing, but the weight of the moment hit him. They had done it. They had shown the galaxy that Earth would not be an easy target. The humans had proven their strength, and now the Zorth Empire would think twice before crossing them again. "Prepare for pursuit," Kale said, his voice firm. "We won't let them regroup. We're going after them." The battle was over for now, but Kale knew that this victory was only the beginning of Earth's journey in the galaxy. The universe had seen Earth's strength, and the fear that followed would change everything. The victory over the Zorth fleet was not just a win for Earth, it was a turning point in galactic history. As the Defender moved deeper into space, leaving behind a trail of defeated enemies, Captain Kale could feel the weight of what had just happened. The battle had been intense, and they had fought hard, but the humans had prevailed. For the first time, the galaxy's most powerful empire had been forced to retreat. But Kale knew that the war was far from over. As the Zorth fleet limped back to their homeworld, their defeat would not go unnoticed. The other alien factions would be watching closely, and soon they would be forced to make decisions that would shape the future. Back on the Defender, the crew was still processing the events of the battle. Though exhausted, they couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. Earth had done what no one thought was possible. They had defeated a galactic empire. "Captain, we've detected a new fleet," Lieutenant Zara said, her voice tense. "It's not Zorth, but it's big, very big." Kel's heart skipped a beat. He had expected retaliation, but the timing was unexpected. It was clear that the Zorth Empire wasn't going to give up easily. They would seek alliances, prepare new strategies, and fight to maintain their dominance. But what worried Kale was who the new fleet might be. "Show me," Kale ordered, walking over to the view screen. The image flickered to life, revealing a fleet of ships far more advanced than the Zorths. Their sleek designs and glowing patterns spoke of a species that had mastered space travel in ways Earth could only dream of. These were not just any ships. They were a force to be reckoned with. "Who are they?" Kale asked, narrowing his eyes. "They're from the Nexeri Consortium," Zara answered, her fingers quickly typing in commands. "An ancient alliance of alien species. They control a large portion of the galaxy, and their military strength is unmatched. If they've come to confront us, this won't be easy." Kale stood still, his mind racing. The Zorth Empire had been a threat, but the Nexeri Consortium was on another level. If the Consortium had allied with the Zorth, Earth would be facing an entirely new kind of enemy, one that was far more organized and unified. "Prepare for contact," Kale said, his voice calm but filled with authority. "We need to know what they want." The alien fleet moved closer, their ships silently hovering in space, a clear message that they weren't here for peaceful negotiations. Captain Kale's crew readied themselves for another confrontation. They knew that Earth had just become the focal point of the galaxy, and the eyes of every alien faction were now fixed on them. As the Defender powered up its weapons, Kale couldn't help but think about what the galaxy had learned in the last few days. Earth was no longer a vulnerable world. It was a force capable of changing the balance of power. The Zorth Empire had felt true fear, and now the rest of the galaxy would have to decide whether to join Earth in the fight or face it as their enemy. The next few moments would determine everything. Earth had earned its place in the galaxy, but whether they would survive the coming storm remained to be seen. The Nexeri Consortium was not a force to be taken lightly. As the Defender moved closer to their fleet, Captain Kale could feel the weight of the moment. This was no longer just about defending Earth. It was about establishing humanity's place in the galaxy. Every move they made would echo throughout the stars. On the bridge of the Defender, the crew stood ready, their faces a mixture of determination and nerves. The Nexeri ships, sleek and towering, filled the view screen, their advanced designs a stark contrast to Earth's own battleship. The Consortium's fleet had come in full force, a united front of highly advanced species. "Captain, they're hailing us," Lieutenant Zara said, her voice tense. "Put it through," Kale replied, his voice steady. This was the moment that would decide Earth's future. The screen flickered, and a tall, imposing figure appeared. The alien's features were hard to read. Its skin was a deep shade of silver, and its eyes glowed with an otherworldly light. It spoke with a voice that was calm, but its presence was undeniably commanding. "I am Jaxel, representative of the Nexeri Consortium," the alien said. "We have watched Earth's recent actions with great interest. The Zorth Empire has failed, and now you stand as a potential threat to the peace we have worked so hard to maintain." Kale met Jaxel's gaze, unwavering. "We are not here to cause chaos," he said. "We came to explore, to defend our world, and to prove that humanity will not be pushed aside." Jaxel's eyes narrowed slightly. "You misunderstand, human. You have already caused a disturbance in the galactic order. The Zorth Empire was a challenge, but the Nexeri are a different kind of power. You are outmatched." Kale took a deep breath. "We've already proven that Earth is not to be underestimated. We've faced the Zorth and come out victorious. We will defend our place in this galaxy, no matter who stands against us." The tension between the two was thick. On the bridge, the crew could feel the air crackling with anticipation. Every word, every move, could tip the balance in favor of either side. Jaxel's expression softened slightly, but his tone remained firm. "You are brave, human. I will give you one chance to stand down and join the Consortium. We could use your technology and your ingenuity. But if you choose to stand against us, we will have no choice but to destroy you." Cal's heart raced, but he stood tall, his voice calm. "We won't join you. We will fight for our future. If you want to destroy us, you'll have to do it in battle." For a long moment, neither side spoke. The silence was deafening. The Nexeri ships loomed like silent predators, and the Defender stood its ground, ready to face whatever came next. "Very well," Jaxel said at last. "If it's a fight you want, it's a fight you shall have." The transmission ended, and the countdown began. The crew of the Defender knew what was coming. The final confrontation was upon them. The Nexeri were powerful, and their fleet was enormous. But humanity had something they had never expected: unity, determination, and the will to survive. "Prepare for battle," Kale commanded, his voice steady. "Let's show them what Earth is capable of." The battle had begun. The Nexeri fleet, a collection of powerful ships from across the galaxy, had locked into position, their weapons charged and ready to fire. They were formidable, their technology beyond anything Earth had ever faced. But as the Defender stood firm, Captain Kale couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. Humanity had come a long way. They weren't the helpless species they had once been. They were now a force to be reckoned with. "Captain, we're receiving incoming fire," Lieutenant Zara reported urgently. The Nexeri ships were unleashing a barrage of energy blasts, their weapons bright against the dark expanse of space. "Raise the shields," Kale ordered, his voice calm but firm. "We've been through worse." The energy blast struck the Defender's shields with force, but the ship held steady. It was clear the Nexeri were trying to overwhelm Earth's defenses with sheer power, but the Defender's shields absorbed the impact, holding up against the onslaught. "Counterattack, fire at their lead ships," Kale commanded. The crew worked in perfect sync, firing back with deadly precision. The energy cannons of the Defender shot out in concentrated blasts, hitting the Nexeri ships with pinpoint accuracy. One of the lead ships flared with bright light before its hull cracked under the pressure. The ship's shields flickered and collapsed, sending the enemy vessel spiraling into space. "Direct hit, Captain," Lieutenant Zora exclaimed. "One down." But the Nexeri weren't backing down. They retaliated quickly, sending a volley of missiles toward Earth's battleship. Kale knew that the battle was far from won. The Nexeri had advanced technology, but Earth had something the Nexeri didn't: the human will to fight. "Captain, the Nexeri flagship is charging up something big," Lieutenant Zora said, her voice tight with tension. "Get ready for it," Kale replied. "We've trained for this." The Nexeri flagship fired, sending a massive energy beam straight toward the defender. It struck the ship's shields with such force that the entire vessel shuddered, the lights flickering across the bridge. Shields holding at 50%. Lieutenant Zora called out, "We can't take much more of this." Kale clenched his fists. This was the moment. If Earth's battleship could withstand this final blow, they would win. If not, humanity's place in the galaxy would be in jeopardy. "All power to the forward shields," Kale ordered, his voice unwavering. "We can do this." The crew responded immediately, and the defender surged forward, bracing for the next impact. With the full power of the ship's systems now dedicated to the shields, the energy beam hit again. But this time, it didn't break through. The shields absorbed the full force of the blast, and the ship held steady. "Now," Kale shouted. The crew fired everything they had, targeting the Nexeri flagship's weak points. One by one, the enemy ships fell. The Nexeri flagship, once so imposing, was now crippled, its engines disabled and its shields failing. It was over. The remaining Nexeri fleet, seeing the destruction of their flagship, hesitated. Then, one by one, they began to retreat into the void of space, their pride shattered. "We did it," Lieutenant Zora whispered, her voice filled with awe. Kale nodded, his expression serious. "This is just the beginning. Earth has shown the galaxy what we're capable of." As the Nexeri fleet retreated, Captain Kale stood tall on the bridge of the Defender. Humanity had faced the greatest powers in the galaxy and had emerged victorious. Earth was no longer a planet to be ignored. It had earned its place among the stars. The battle was over, but the war for Earth's future had just begun.